Hi, I'm Mark, and this week we're reviewing Dario Argento's Inferno. In the 1970s and 1980s, a lot of horror films came out of Italy. These films were called Italian exploitation films. Sometimes these films ripped off bigger budget films that were set in the US. For example, Zombie Flesh Eaters in Italy is actually a sequel to Dawn of the Dead. It's an unofficial sequel, but it's called Zombie 2 in Italy, and Dawn of the Dead is just called Zombie. These are primarily exploitation films that usually have tons of gore and gratuitous nudity. Although a lot of these films look like B movies at the time, they now have a cult following, and I am one of those followers. What I love about these films is that they're very unsettling and no character is safe. Any character can die in one of these films. It's great. And in some movies, all the characters die. Most of these films are dubbed really badly, and a lot of the times the stories just don't make sense. In the case of Inferno, there are some scenes which are questionable. Inferno comes from the Three Mothers trilogy, Inferno being the second in that trilogy, the first being Suspiria. I did not know this until after I finished watching Inferno. It is the first Dario Argento film I've actually seen. I still haven't seen Suspiria, but I really want to now. What makes a film like this so great is its use of music and lighting. It creates a dreamlike or nightmarish sequence using red and blue lights, creating this very unnatural feel and look to the image. In the 80s, horror movies always had a great soundtrack. Even the 70s. Just look at Halloween or The Thing by John Carpenter. They are memorable soundtracks, yet very simple. The story of Inferno is quite complex, and I didn't really understand the majority of it until I got closer to the end. A young poet who lives in an apartment finds a book called The Three Mothers. In this book, it describes three evil sisters, one of which lives in New York in that exact apartment. She goes to find evidence of her existence, and unfortunately all hell breaks loose. What happens is a mystery that a lot of people are trying to solve, including her brother Mark, who she sends a letter to just beforehand. Characters are killed off consistently as they all try and figure out what's going on inside this apartment. The one thing is quite hard to understand is who the main character is, as it seems to switch every few minutes. We follow characters through different things, and then sometimes they meet their ultimate demise. There's somebody going around killing all these people. We don't know who it is and we never see their face. The mystery only gets more complex as the people we're suspicious of start dying as well. So like I said, this film can get confusing at times. We follow the brother of the poet Mark as he tries to figure out what has happened to your sister as he arrives at her apartment. Random things start to happen that don't really make a lot of sense, but are still entertaining to watch. And that's the thing with a lot of these Italian exploitation films, that a lot of things can happen that are just out of the ordinary or don't really add up to anything, or there's no logical explanation, but are still very entertaining to watch. Some of the scenes can linger on for quite some time, but when you add the music and the lighting to it, it can create this very uncomfortable feeling the whole time. We never really know what's going on. We don't know if it's supernatural or actually someone pulling all the strings. Although apparently this is not as good as Suspiria, I still think it is definitely a great Italian horror film. It serves its purpose in that genre. My only issue is, like a lot of them, is the characters. We don't learn a lot about them, they don't really talk much. Like a lot of these films, we get to see their reactions more than anything. Unfortunately, with a lack of character development, it's hard to even care about most of these characters. This film just feels like a very obscure dream. The lighting, the music, everything just creates something that just feels unnatural. That's what makes us feel unsafe for all of our characters. Anything can happen in a dream. Anything can happen in a nightmare. And with these kind of films, we never know who's going to live or die. And that's what keeps us on our toes. Although far from a perfect film, it is definitely one of the better Italian exploitation films I've seen. This isn't a genre for everyone. What you get most out of this genre is entertainment. If you like blood, guts, and being in suspense, the Italian exploitation genre is definitely a genre to check out. With Arrow Media releasing a lot of these again on Blu-ray, you can pick them up from most online media stores, and Prime has its own Arrow section, which you need to pay extra for. I mean, when you look at the covers on these things, there's so much detail in them. They're perfect. I love them. And this is another one as well. They're just disgusting looking, and I think that's great. I don't have many of these films, but I'm trying to collect more of them as I go along. There are some that are just pure rubbish, but something like Inferno or Zombie Flesh Eaters are definitely ones I'd suggest to start with. So overall, I'm going to give Inferno a 6 out of 10. It is a very slow-paced film with some very entertaining scenes and a very freaky atmosphere that lingers the whole way through the film. Unfortunately, due to a lack of character development, I can't really give it a higher score. Thank you for watching. Goodbye. Oh yes, and please keep watching my videos. Fuck off!